Dan, I really appreciate you coming in. For those that don't know Dan Smith, he is a multi-unit business development manager for GFS. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know we had a little faux pas on the location, but you are here now. So I want to first talk about kind of how you got in the restaurant industry. You know, with your background, you started in college, but was it just a job filler? Was it just to have a job? And then what made you stay?
That's a very good question. So it's kind of one of those off the cuff. So I had no intentions of going into restaurants. Actually, when I got out of high school, I was going to go into the trades. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go be an electrician.
Okay.
So I finished up school and I'm like, oh, I'll go right into trades. So jumped right into it full board and did it for a couple months. And sure enough, it's downtown in the city, Lincoln Park area, installing one of those garage lifts. And I'm up on an 8-foot ladder. And one of the gentlemen working with tells me the power's off. So I go up and I'm up there, you know, being a greenhorn thinking I can do this. I go up there. Well, I didn't realize the wires were live. Shot me off an 8-foot ladder.
Oh my God.
Fell off. I took my belt off. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I had no idea what I was going to do. I'm like, I'm just not going to do this because I want to stay alive. So I'm like,
yeah, that's
not
pretty
doing
intense.
this.
How old were you?
So I was 19 years old.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
your life death experience.
I was like, no, I'm good. That was my get out of jail free card. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm like, all right, I guess I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I enrolled at COD.
Okay.
Like, all right, now I got to find a job.
Yeah.
So I paid for my college. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try something different that's flexible. So I drove down the street, drove into Chili's, filled out a resume. Sure enough, they call me back and they go in for an interview. And I had no experience of food. I was like, all right, I just want to try something. I was like, I'm can make some money, have that flexible schedule. And went into it. I was shy, couldn't talk to anybody. Actually, I worked with Juan Zuniga.
Yeah.
He hired me.
Yeah.
Thank God he did, because I was so green. I didn't.
Were you in the front
of
house or back?
Yeah, I was in front of the house.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, don't put me in the back of the house unless you got to like clean the floors. But the rest, I'm like, I'll figure this out.
So did you do server?
I was a server. Yeah.
Okay.
So I started on there and kind of just went at it full board, and then it got stuck in the bones, and it's like, this is fun. This is kind of like the thrill of running around, running us.
So you're one of those sick individuals that
I was like quiet. I'm like, all right, this is completely different than anything I'd ever done before. But I'm like, I'll try this and see how it goes, and just fell in love with it. And it just kind of one of those things that kind of stuck with me, and did that and kind of worked my way up to trainer and things of that nature. And then did a little bit of back of the house, but never fully in the kitchen. I always liked the front of the house.
Yeah.
So, but it just kind of stayed with me and enjoyed it, and worked that way all throughout college. Like I said, paid for my college doing that. So the flexibility and kind of the experiences were phenomenal. So
yeah. So then you end up. So did you go right from restaurants right to GFS?
No. So I worked at restaurants through college, and I was like, you know, same thing. Kind of like I'm ready for a change. And then I went into paper and packaging, kind of one of those off the cuff.
Oh, okay.
Did that for a couple of years, and then moved into insurance. And did that for about 2 years. And then same thing. I was like, you know, I think I want to get back into restaurants. And we had a family friend, actually my cousin-in-law, his dad had worked for Gordon for over 25 years. And I didn't know who Gordon Food Service was. Worked at Chili's. I knew US Foods and Cisco. No idea who GFS was. So did some research, went with the interview, and same thing. I was like, all right, this is fun. Kind of felt like I was doing that Friday night shift again, like working in food service.
Yeah.
Because you're just, every day's different. It's not a 9 to 5. The flexibility is great. You just walk in back doors. You're saying hi to people, kind of like when you're walking up to a table, first time back in the restaurants, introducing yourself, kind of making them comfortable in the environment they're in. Kind of felt the same way when I was on the streets knocking on doors.
Yeah, kind of the same thing in the restaurant, because like you have probably repeat customers you probably got to know, but then also new customers, and that's kind of the same thing but different distribution versus restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to tailor your approach completely different. Just like when you when you're in a restaurant, walking up to a party of 5 adults and then 5 younger kids. Same thing when you're going to a restaurant, more established as opposed to a new restaurant. So it's kind of flexibility, and every opportunity is different.
So. Yeah. So maybe just a quick background, or the 50,000 foot, who Gordon Food Service is, you know, as we mentioned GFS for short, that's what it's known in the industry, just kind of who they are. And then what was your first position, and then maybe walk through, because you've been there over a decade now. So kind of the evolution to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So Gordon Food Service, still a family owned company based in Grand Rapids. So we're number 4 on the charts of overall food distributors, excuse me. So the flexibility with the family, and obviously the opportunity and the growth kind of mindset of the organization in Chicagoland area. We're still fairly new in Chicago in the grand scheme of things.
Really?
And for yeah, when you think about it, kind of where we're at up against Cisco and US and
Well, I guess
Performance,
that's
we're
true.
kind of
I
we're
guess that's
considered the
true.
babies, and everybody kind of looks at us as more of the institutionalized
Okay.
distributor, which I mean, as you know, we're really not. We kind of pivot in every single avenue of the business, so we're still kind of getting our name out there. So, but like I said, the family invests wholeheartedly in the industry that, or in the organization, gives everybody the opportunity to grow, and like I said, family first mentality. So it's been a great company. I've been here coming up on 14 years.
Wow.
So kind of your conversation started on the street. I call them IFS or Independent Food Service. So
Okay.
kind of give me a laptop and said, "Hey, we're going to give you a small route." So I was in the kind of like the south suburbs of Chicago into the city. So I had Oak Park, Forest Park,
Okay.
Berwyn, all
Yeah.
those areas
Yeah.
into like Elmhurst and a little bit of Elmhurst, but mostly like that Oak Park, Berwyn area, Forest Park. So I did that for about 4 years. Kind of got my feet wet. Um, had the opportunity to go on trips and things of that nature. Like I said, that was a great way to get started. And actually, the ironic part is in the company, everybody who's ever worked at Gordon Food Service has to start where I did on the
Really?
independent food service
I
side.
did not know that.
So from Gordon's to anybody up to the CEO has worked on the street. So kind of gives you the different approach, kind of learn boots on the
Mm-hmm.
ground
Mm-hmm.
mentality and kind of learning how to manage a route, grow a route, kind of all the ins and outs of the route, money collector, kind of moving product around, everything of that nature. So it kind of gives you that kind of starting block per
That
se.
baseline
Yeah,
baseline information of what you're getting into as a whole.
yeah.
And sometimes you get in too high,
Oh
you
yeah,
have no idea what's going on below.
yeah.
And then they're like, why are these problems? And it's like, well, if you knew what was actually going
Exactly.
on to some degree, I'm not saying
Sure.
they're probably not hitting the streets for a year, but
Yeah.
at least they get a taste of, oh, this is what it's like
Sure.
being out there,
Yeah.
the day-to-day
Yeah.
type stuff.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. I mean, they give you kind of like a roadblock, or they give you kind of a map of where to go. But IFS side and things of that nature, it's always changing. It's ever evolving. It's fast paced. I mean, to learn to your point from the ground up, and then move into leadership. To your point, you understand what it's like to be boots on the
Yeah.
ground. So it gives you the experience and knowledge. And a lot of times when you're moving up in the company, when I moved out of the IFS side, I moved to a manager, and I was managing some reps that had been with the company 10 years longer than I am,
Wow.
or I was, excuse me. So to have that kind of build that trust and rapport with the reps, the boots on the ground mentality and the experiences and knowledge that I had helped remove obstacles, and at the same time be able to kind of roll my sleeves up and get in their cars a lot of times, or just go in the back door with them to kind of give them that confidence. And
Hmm.
I mean, their route is their baby, but as a manager, you're just there as servant leadership, just making sure that their problems are taken care of
Hmm.
and that they know that you're there. So, but working on the street, I was able to kind of understand that going into manager, because there's a little bit of a training manual, but it's more or less just kind of learn baptism by fire.
I feel most of the food services baptism by fire, as good as
Yeah.
people have their systems and whatever,
Yeah.
until you're immersed in it and doing it every day. I just don't feel like you're gonna get it. I know it when I was in culinary school. One of the big things our chef always said was, like I can show you how to make an omelet 100 times. I can give you the manual. I can walk you through it. But
Yep.
until you actually put the eggs in the pan and make it, you're
Yep.
never gonna get it. And it
Yeah.
was so true. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
getting to our final, and I was like, well, yeah, like we would just sit there and practice omelets all day long.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's just an omelet.
Yep.
But with what we were expected to get a French style, no brown, you have to
Yep.
be very specific with your technique. And
Yeah.
same thing, you've got a technique. And so you got to practice that. So now you move up kind of, I call it big leagues, right? Multi-unit business
Yeah.
manager. What does that entail?
So it's a multi-unit business developer. So what we do is kind of within not just GFS, but all the broadliners kind of landscape is the national chains, are like the multi-unit where we are. They call them merging chains. So it's kind of like that, like the teenager, and then when you get
Mm,
into being adult, that's when you're national chains. So you're in that hybrid phase where you're kind of learning as you
got it.
grow. You're aggressively expanding. You're trying to build an infrastructure, maybe going in different markets of the country. So with our side and with GFS and everything, is we're trying to give them the national chain support side, from pricing, sourcing, routing, everything behind the scenes that a national chain would get,
Hmm.
giving that to the emerging chains.
Got
So
it.
when they're kind of coming up, like a lot of them now, probably as you've seen, like with labor costs and just labor
Oh,
shortages,
yeah.
as well as same thing, skilled labor in the back, is trying to be able to kind of replicate that brand as you grow and not change your whole identity as that brand. So partnering with a broadliner that, hey, if you guys growing in another part of the country? Can you get the same products? Can you make sure that if one customer tastes something in North Carolina, will it taste the same in Chicago? So things of that nature, making sure that on our side, as they grow, having that partnership and kind of that stamp of, right, let's just, everything's, the groundwork is, the foundation's laid. Let's just grow together as you guys go into new markets. And then somebody's growing to national chains and they're familiar with Gordon. So a lot of that kind of builds that rapport and also pulls us as a distributor sometimes into new markets where we don't have that strong footprint yet. So when we're going in there, partner with that organization, it helps GFS as well as the customer.
Yeah.
So,
So you mentioned the different opcos in different parts of the country. I've never gotten an answer to this, and maybe you know, maybe you don't. Why are the SKUs, and a SKU is just a number associated to an item.
Yep.
Why are the SKUs so damn different from one opco to the other? I know sometimes they're the same, but why is it they can be completely different? So why can't they just be the same SKU across the portfolio?
For the most part, they are, to be honest with you. It's just some of it, it's based on where you can get it and obviously what that particular item is. So, like, for the most part, they're trying to do that too as an organization, trying
Oh,
to
okay.
be more aligned. But
Streamline.
the other part too, behind the scenes, is sometimes that distributor or that particular vendor won't go into that market. So it's going a little different. That's where like MDLs and things of that nature gets a little harder or it's not a big mover. So they'll move into one distribution center and transfer over to another. So
Got it.
there's many different ways to kind of skin that same cat. So, but like on our side with the developer side, the chain space, that's where we get into like proprietary items. So for that customer, you have to have that item. That's something we bring in, and then it's in all the opcos for that particular.
That's the coolest thing to see. I went up to the Kenosha warehouse and got to see the whole everything. And you're like, I know that brand, right? It's got their label on the bag and everything. You're like, isn't that something? They're like, oh yeah, it's just in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out.
It's crazy too when you're walking through. I don't know if you went through when it was in kind of full service when it was going
full
speed. I mean, when they're running up and down that cooler. And the first time I was like, why don't they have all the fries in one area? Because you think, all right, when you're running through a cooler and you're going fast paced, you're like, all right, I'm going to pull item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next one next to it is going to be another fry. It's completely different. I mean, the people that created that warehouse and obviously the systems and the methodology to do that is amazing. Because so your point, like you said, you look down these long bays and it's all different items next to each other. Because you just growing up, when you walk into a grocery store, it's all cereal.
Right.
All right, when I walk into a warehouse, it's going to be all French fries. It's like, no, everything's kind of spaced out. And just the way with which how fluid that warehouse runs and the accuracy and the consistency and the employees, frankly, employees that go through there, it's unbelievable. I worked a shift with them one night. And I was like, I want to run down the bay and pick stuff and kind of get involved and, help load a truck. Like, no, you can watch because they're incentivized. So if they mispick something, that's money out of their paycheck.
That's what's really cool about Gordon, like from the warehouse to delivery, because I know the delivery guys are incentivized too. I got really close with my drivers when I was in operations, and I'd say those guys are some of the hardest working dudes out there. They he would bend over backwards. He'd be like, had his cell phone. If we needed something or if he was running late, he would text or call and say, hey, I'm running late. I need you to know. Yeah. Because he knows I'm getting a 200, 300, 400 piece order. And there were times even in the summer where he would completely rearrange his truck. Cause I'm like, hey, I just need to know when you're going to get here. We cut short on an item. When you get here, I've got to get this off the truck. Yeah. He rearranged his whole truck to make me the first delivery. And I was like, whoa, nobody does that. Yeah. But it just gave that connection that you said, that family feel. Like you can tell that from the employees that it's a culture thing, not just he was a nice guy and wanted to take care of his customer. It's through the organization. So that's really cool because the way they load trucks, it's the first stop is the last thing on the truck and the last stop is the first thing on the truck because obviously to unload it backwards. So absolutely insane. So you can tell it across the organization how much people really care about it. And back to the warehouse. Yeah. Boxes are flying around, going through. Then they showed the little scanner and make sure
conveyors, everything. There's like 7.
The little chute, like different lines that are moving back and forth. It just blew my mind just going and seeing the facility in and of itself because it's one of the bigger ones, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And to your point about the driver, I remember even when I was on route, I remember one of the first times I started in December, and I remember in the summer I had a lot of country clubs and things of that nature. So when I opened one up, I remember driving around, I saw a driver kind of just he was behind a little bit, so I jumped out and helped move things around and help him unload it and exchange numbers and things like that. So when I was on my route, he would call me from time to time, hey, Dan, here's a new restaurant open up, or hey, this account's calling or working with this guy and vice versa. So that was one of the best things. You never really understood just how much of a family environment the company has. It's kind of like we always joke, like drinking the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start, you're like, it's not going to happen. No, it's a great job. But when you get into it, is it really what
What
they
they
talk
say.
about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's the proof in the pudding. And I remember like it started with that driver. I was like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. And I still talk to him. Moved to the other part of the country to work for GFS.
Mm-hmm.
But him and I used to talk all the time around the street. We'd see each other just running around town and help each other out, grab them a coffee, and at the annual meeting, just kind of hang out and catch up and talk about family and stuff. But
Yep.
it's amazing just how naturally it comes because the company with Gordon and just how they are selective as the people that they bring in, just their whole kind of that servant leadership mentality, or when they're on the street, the driver to warehouse to sales reps, everybody kind of picks in or pitches in to make sure to take care of the customer.
Yeah. Something else that's really unique with Gordon's, and this took me a little bit to get used to, but in the end, I really liked it, is skip day ordering.
Mhm.
And I know for a lot of people,
It's love it or hate it.
you love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
And what we mean by skip day is that normally, you place an order by 3 o'clock on a given day, and you potentially, depending on your customer size and your drop size and things of that nature, you get it next day with some of the other distributors.
Yeah.
Well, GFS is very unique in that you can't just place an order and get it next day.
Mm.
Now there are some add-ons and there's
Yeah.
obviously
Oh yeah.
some emergency stuff,
Yeah.
but for the most part, like if my truck is Wednesday, I got to order Monday to get my Wednesday order. Maybe explain why do skip day?
So like skip day, that's a big question, even like on the chain side. They're like, why can't I just order today and get it tomorrow? It's always what it is. So like for Kenosha, for instance, there's certain items we call them, they're MDLs, they're like slow movers. So instead of taking that prime real estate in Kenosha where that items are coming the next day,
Mm-hmm.
we transfer over one day after. I always say it's like 2 day prime with Amazon.
Yep.
Everybody always thinks of the big bad boy Amazon, but when you put it in that mentality, it's like when you order something 9 times out of 10, you won't get it you won't get the next day. Sometimes it's 2 days out,
Right.
depending on what time you order. I said it's no different with GFS. It's just given that mentality of I'm going to order it by 5 o'clock and get it the next day.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I'm like, all right, well, when you order up until 5 o'clock with the competitor, what is the ratio or percent of how much you're going to have in stock? And I'm like, well, sometimes it's great. Most of the times we don't know till the next day. I say when you order 2 days out, you get those items in, and then you're in there. And then the next day moment, you're like, oh, I had a rush, and we run through our red peppers. Hey, let's just add them on for that next day. So it's already in there. So it's almost like you get those day before and then the reminder the next day. Like, hey, if I forget something, I can still throw it in.
Well, you have enough wiggle room you can add on, but then also what's in stock
You know
or
what's in
not.
stock. 100%.
Come usually by that night,
Yeah.
right? Like we're using our Monday example. By Monday, whatever 6 o'clock it processes,
Mhm.
it's gonna say you got it or you don't, and then you can call
Yeah.
your IST. You can call, and say, is it, and then sometimes, again, what's great, especially with the ISTs, is they'll be like, no, there's actually a truck coming in
Mhm.
at tonight. I'm going to check it first thing in the morning and I'll actually get it on, even though it says it's not coming. So
Yeah.
again, back to that customer service level and family mentality, even the ISTs, just people that are at the computer all
Yep.
day, monitoring orders and making sure, taking
Yeah.
stuff from customers. They're looking out for the customer to make sure that they're getting, because I know you guys pride yourselves really highly on your fill rates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big piece. It's obviously in distribution, but I know Gordon especially is very high on the fill rates.
Yeah, the fill rates, the efficiencies. I mean, to your point exactly, it's like you said, you put your order in 2 days out, you're going to see what's out, or if something is out, you're going to expect that someone's going to call you. And that's where kind of when I have conversations with potentials and you bring up that, because that's out there. Everyone, competition tries to use it against us. You got to order 2 days out. But I'm like, when you really think about it, it helps you become more organized.
Mhm.
And so when you get your items in, it's almost like it's a checklist. And I always tell them, like working in the back of the kitchens, I was placing those orders. And when you're placing the orders, you're kind of sweating a little bit because you're always ordering Thursday for Friday. And then you're coming in the busy weekend and you're like, if I'm out of certain items, I hate the word 86. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
that's a horrible word in the restaurant industry. And I'm like, when you have the extra day, it's that kind of comfort. Like, hey, it's done. We're good. Check it off. Let's move on to our next task. Because as you know, when you're in the kitchen, there's 50 things coming at you while you're doing one task. So it's like when you check that off, your items are in, you're ready to go. It's like, all right, on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than getting into service and you're out of something,
Oh,
thinking that you have it.
Yeah.
And then
or the driver shows up and you're like,
Oh.
oh yeah, I got 10. I ordered 10 and I got 4. And you're like, all right, now time to scramble.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about what you guys offer that multi-unit operators, how you achieve those business goals. Is it really just the conduit of delivering the product? Because really that's what distribution is. It's really
Yeah.
just getting it. Or do you all work too with some of those manufacturers when you're trying to, get it to these multi-chains, especially if a new restaurant's opening and it's you said teenager going into big,
hmm
how do you help service those customers or by bridging that gap?
So like the biggest thing that we have when I go and have conversation with potential is just talking about like a one point of contact. So a lot of these, when you get in these chains and things of that nature, there's multi layers of support, and a lot of even on the customer facing. So on our side, you have like what they call like account manager. You have an account
Right.
manager, you have a program sales rep, and then you have inside like the ISTs. But from the top level with the account manager, that's a one point of contact for all your units throughout the country.
Mm,
Whereas we've seen frustrations with the competition is that there's multiple people throughout the country. So if you're based in Chicago and you have a unit in Florida or Texas and stuff hits the fan, a lot of times like, I don't know who to call.
right.
And whereas with our side, we're all aligned with our national side from our multi-unit team. So if something happens, there's levers and every additional support that you can pull from our side, whether it be Southern Florida or it's in the middle of Texas, things of that nature. And then from your point with regards to like product sourcing, that's where our team behind the scenes, they manage all those. They bring them in. They're sourcing those for these concepts because that's a big thing too is their brand. So with their brand, they're very specific on particular brands,
Hmm.
labels, like how often they're using it, and then also LTOs. So with those brands, you're almost like a season ahead of where you are currently.
Yeah.
So with that,
That's
there's
how retail is too, right?
100%.
Retail, I'll never forget when I was in home improvement. I'll just leave it at that. Big chain. And it was probably like January was coming and patio furniture is coming in. And I'm like, it's January.
Oh yeah.
Why are we getting patio furniture?
hmm
And then over the years, you're kind of like, oh, because by the time you get it in, you get it up in the overheads, spring is here
Yep.
and you got to get it out. And then the next thing you know, summer season is over in like July. And
Yep.
you're like, no, summer's just starting. And it's like, no, 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 summer's over. We're getting ready for fall. We
Yep.
got to get Halloween. And you're
Yep.
like, wait, this doesn't make any sense why
Yeah.
we're doing it until you actually do it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, you really do have to be planned 3 to 4 months
Yeah.
ahead, or you said like a season.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Like you said, you're looking at seasons. And even also, I mean, the biggest thing that we always talk about too is just onboarding a multi-unit concept.
Yeah.
So from like an onboarding, anytime you talk to a customer, they kind of get a little cagey and you're like, oh, well, the transition period, and like, oh, that's always a disaster. So from our side, we have a whole implementation team. So it's a 13-week rollout. So every week we have a whole team. That's their specific job is to make sure from once that potential customer signs on the dotted line, there's those weekly touch points to make sure, hey, do you have inventory that's left over, routing, new items that are coming in. So the biggest thing is it's great when you bring a customer over, but you never want to disrupt their customers
Right.
because you never want the customer to feel like there's something that changed behind the scenes. So the whole implementation team, that's everything behind the scenes that they're working on, as well as like a developer like myself, we
Hmm.
stay involved during the whole time too, because that helps build rapport with the customer to make sure, because you never want to see a change and then there'd be a disaster right after that.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole implementation team gets involved.
Also put a bad taste in their mouth and
100%.
just they're like, I don't try. It could be the one thing. And
Yep.
that's all they're ever gonna remember. That
Oh
one
yeah.
person, that contact.
Yeah.
They
And
stick. It's same with the restaurant, right? You have
yeah.
one bad experience, like I'm not going back.
And
The
it's
same thing.
and you know too, it's crazy just how small the restaurant industry is. Everybody talks. So it's like
They sure
if
do.
if you're flawless on your execution, that spreads quick. But if you have a bad execution, that spreads like a wildfire 10 times faster.
Yeah.
So I mean with that team, they do a phenomenal job. And that's honestly one of our biggest kind of like selling tools and differentiators is that onboarding because it's such a hurdle to do that. You take away price, you take away everything else.
Everything.
But switching over to a new broadliner is kind of like reinventing the wheel sometimes. These operators and they're like, I don't want to do this. So,
Especially multi-chain. I mean,
oh,
you're not
100%.
you're not talking just mom pop 1 2.
Yeah.
You're talking how many, I mean, in your sector, I guess, how many would they consider for your size for the up and coming?
So it can be like unit wise, it could be starting at 3 to 5,
Okay.
at $2 million and up. But I mean, a lot of them we're going into, they're 9, 10, 12 units and they're kind of pockets throughout the country.
Yeah.
So to be able to kind of juggle those Lego pieces per se and try to put them all together, that's where that team gets involved because you have distribution center in Kenosha, maybe you have a couple in Texas and based on where they're at. And then you have how you're going to do routing to make sure there's no disruptions. So when the change comes over, what day are they getting the routing? What time are they getting that? When are they getting their particular items like produce and things of that
Mm.
nature? So it's kind of you're pulling on all different levers and making sure that the customer understands, like, hey, we'll take care of you.
Yeah.
So
And before we jump on some other, topics, you guys have stores and they're the greatest. I absolutely love them. If you drive by and you see a big red logo GFS,
oh yeah,
just go. Think of it as it's almost like Sam's Club or Costco, but only food. I mean, obviously
yep,
you got some cleaning stuff,
hmm,
but anyone can go. That's the great thing. You
oh
don't
yeah,
need a membership to go into the
yeah,
GFS store. I tell people all the time, like, man, if you're doing a barbecue or something, go there, get your
oh yeah,
burgers and your dogs.
yeah,
It's so much cheaper than trying to go somewhere else and
yeah,
buy a bunch of packages. People they think it's a membership only,
yeah,
and it's not.
yeah,
And I love going to the stores.
yeah.
You can get anything.
Yeah, and they're going through like a whole transformation too. So they're kind of changing around. Like they started in Michigan City with the new concept. So it's a new, more modern and kind of like the kind of twist of like a Jewel Osco per se, or like that old school market,
Mhm.
as well as a Costco and things of that nature, or things of that nature. So a fresh like deli counter, sliced meats,
Really?
things of that nature. So it's really getting
Interesting.
away from kind of that old school. Everybody, like I said, I'll keep saying it, like institutional style
Mhm.
into more of that modern-esque. And like I said, customers and people are really noticing the change. And kind of like I said, the one-offs, because it's always hard when, to your point, if you're having a family barbecue and stuff, if you have a party of 30, it's great. But it's like if you want to stop in and just get a couple pounds of deli meat
Right.
sliced, I mean, that kind of
Right.
thing, you won't think to go to GFS. So it's kind of changing that mentality to just kind of making it an everyday kind of store for people.
That's interesting.
So
I did not know that was in the
so it's
in
like
the
fresh
work.
produce, things of that nature. So the ones and twosies. So going into that side, so it's all the rebranding and the new
Yeah, that I've
design.
seen more as of late. When you go in, you
Yeah.
can just get a
It
couple
used to be just
peppers.
bulk. It'd be
Yeah.
like you buy a 5 pound bag. I'm like, hey, my kids are gonna eat 5 pounds of peppers before these go bad. But
Uh-huh.
now you can grab the ones and twosies and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So
Let's jump into some trends. Maybe
mhm.
what are you seeing, or are there any trends, especially in these multi-unit? And that could be anything from the type of food, styles of food. But is there anything you're seeing nowadays?
So trends on our side, I mean, it's really more of, I mean, a lot of these like multi-unit, they already have kind of their trends or their mindset ready to go. It's more of the functionality of like labor, things of that nature.
Mm,
So the trends are more of, hey, how do we do more with less? So as they're growing, trying to find ways to kind of maximize labor. So if it's ready, set, serve items, things of that nature, things that where you used to have, I don't know, like with you, like me growing up in the restaurants, there'd be 15 to 20 people in the back.
right.
Now there's 3 to 4. So when you're doing that and using technology as well. So technology is that big kind of trendsetter per se. I just went into Smashburger by my, or what was it? Yeah, I think it's Smashburger or one of those, but there's nobody up front. It's all you're ordering on a
All
kiosk.
kiosk.
It's all kiosk. So I mean that kind of customer facing is all going away. So it's coming into technology. So when you walk in, you have like a greeter, like a Walmart greeter per se, but you're ordering everything on there for to place the order, and then the person runs it to you. So with that how do you keep that customer interaction or keeping them coming back
Hmm.
is the use of technology. So using that as well as in the back, how do you produce a product quicker is getting items in that are more like they're ready, set, serve. So that fresh taste, and it's still a fresh item. You're not having somebody in the back chop up 24 heads
Yeah,
of
explain what
romaine.
ready, set, serve. You've said it
Yeah,
a
I'm
couple
sorry.
times.
I keep saying
No,
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure people, they're like,
I
ready, set. What does
apologize.
that
I'm
mean?
sorry. So under Marcon with the ready, set, serve. So it's already triple washed, bagged, ready to go. So you can open it up. So like diced celery, things of that nature, chop romaine. A lot of customers are going to that just because of what's going on in the
Yeah.
back of the house. So, and from trends, I mean, there's a lot of sustainability, things of that nature. So, like our Good Finds program that we have, you can go online and you can find everybody that is more geared towards that sustainability practice or local, like for produce,
Mm,
our nearby section. So, with regards to what's available, because everybody wants from the table, they want to know where it's coming from.
yep.
So, with our nearby and our Good Finds, that we've done kind of that research out there. So, if a distributor, or I'm sorry, not distributor, but a customer is interested in something that's, like you said, high sustainable practices, even like coffee with like Thrive Farmers, things of that nature. So, some of these brands that are more well known now, but they're very sustainably kind of focused per se on the marketplace.
Yeah. And I was gonna say Marcon, because you have Marcon, which is like a little I don't even know how to explain it, but they deal
Yeah,
with
it's like a
produce.
co-op. Yeah, the best
Yeah,
way
it's
to
a
say it. Yeah.
co-op.
Hmm.
You're getting the best produce
Yeah.
that's out there. I did the trip out to Salinas.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I-
It's pretty amazing.
It is absolutely amazing to go out to the farms and see how they work with the farms, the Marcon team, the
Yeah.
quality, what the specs must be
Hmm.
in order so you can know as a customer you're going to get it is the top tier of,
Yeah.
of the produce that you're getting from the fields.
Hmm.
So for people listening, it's really they have the co-op and they have specs, so they'll go out to some of the big guys, Andy Boys,
Hmm.
Taylor Farms,
Yep.
Bolt Farms, Bot Farms, Bolt
Oh
Farms,
yeah.
Bot
And you got Church Brothers. You got
Church
all
Brothers.
those. Yep.
So they
Hmm.
provide to multiple people, but to Marcon, to have that Marcon label, it's got to be a level
Yeah.
above just
Oh yeah.
your everyday produce, so you know
Yep.
you're going to get a high quality. Is what was the Elon Musk brother
Oh, Square Roots.
Square Roots? Is
Yes.
that still around?
It's kind of phasing its way out a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a big. It's just to be honest with you, it's a hard niche to get into, especially in
Mhm.
Chicago, where I mean a lot of that's coming from. So that's where a lot of the like coming in like nearby, and then some of the good finds, things of that nature, is kind of coming into that segment of it. It was
Yeah.
cool, like I said, it's something that was very unique in the marketplace, but it didn't seem like it really ever took off the way with which it was intended to do. So especially in Chicago,
I would have thought, you have these cool labs, you're growing
yeah,
greens fresh. I mean, no, literally have to worry about no disease at
yeah.
all. But then when I went up and saw, I got to see it before it closed down. It was like,
Oh, did you see the one in
oh,
Kenosha?
oh yeah, I had a
Yeah.
white suit up. I felt
Oh
like I was
yeah.
in Breaking Bad going in just to look at Basil.
Yeah.
But Breaking Bad, these rooms,
Yep.
basically they were like scientists.
Oh yeah.
They look like scientists. I don't know. They're all at their
Yeah.
laptops, like,
It's like a shipping container. You're walking in like, where am I? And
yeah,
there's stuff growing on the walls and everything. You're
yeah.
like, wow, this is a
And they're
pretty
like,
unique.
oh, and we harvest here and here,
Yeah.
and then the shelf life. That's what shocked me the most because the shelf life was so long.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why wouldn't you go to this model if your shelf life is,
Yeah.
3 times longer? I remember that stuff, and they said, don't put it in the fridge. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
don't put it in the fridge
It's crazy.
because it's designed to
Hmm.
just be out. You could leave basil sitting on the counter for 3 weeks. Blew my mind. I was
Yeah.
like, what? 3 weeks?
Yeah.
And it didn't degrade at all.
No,
Absolutely insane.
it's pretty surreal what that product does. I know they're getting more into like the retail side. So with that, I think to more going to the smaller pack size. Because when you go to like a Mariano's
Mhm.
or a Jewel or even like some of these big guys, like I said, you'll see the smaller little 1.5 pound kind of thing, or ounces. I
They're
should
like
say,
one
like
ounce.
I should say maybe like an ounce
They,
or two,
they need to
not smaller.
find the sweet spot of
Yeah.
a little bit bigger, because there's nothing worse having to buy 4 of those things
Oh yeah.
when you're trying to make something.
Yep.
But that's all they have.
Yeah. Yep.
Then going to the extreme of a pound, and people
Yeah.
don't understand how much a pound of produce really. That's a lot of produce.
That's
It
what I
comes in
thought.
like a big old. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a bag.
You're like,
I
you
mean,
better be ready to
it's
eat a
like
pound.
it's a pound. So find that sweet spot. Tell
Yeah.
them find that, like, I think a lot of people will do like a 6 ounce
Yeah.
type thing. Tell them to hit that sweet spot, and I think people
Like that spring mix. Like you have the smaller bag,
Yes.
you have a 3 pound bag, and you go up to
100%.
like the 12 pound. You're like, all right, where's that sweet spot in between? But to your point, trying to find enough, but not too much. You're
Yeah.
kind of like gambling. Also, people get afraid, well, it's gonna be waste. But to your point, it's like if you understand how long it lasts, you can make it work.
Yeah.
So
So I know you touched briefly. We're going to look a little ahead again,
Mhm.
where it's going, a lot of robotics or more technology driven. But from the distributor side, what are you seeing? I know you guys have there's a whole tech team,
yeah.
but what are you doing as a distributor kind of moving forward with these trends to help the customer as well?
Yeah, so from like a technology side, like Gordon Restaurant Pro, I know that's something like for like an inventory and recipe side, that side. Just kind of looking at them to be able to scale. Like I said, it's hard to kind of go out to the market and things of that nature. And the biggest thing, like I said, every conversation we have with the potential is on labor. Is really how to your point, you mentioned the robots. I mean, those are starting to come out as well.
Do you see them in any of the
I've seen them in a couple. I mean,
Yeah.
at least people have kind of gone down that path. I mean, it's just eerie to see a robot bringing your food out. But I mean, I remember the days probably when you were working. I mean, back in the restaurant, there'd be 20, 30 people
Oh yeah.
as staff. Now you're lucky to get 4 or 5. And the biggest thing is also the employee turnover as well. So from like a safety perspective, and also they're looking at broadliners to help. Hey, how do we onboard an employee? So like from the
Really?
systems, how do you go out and market to your employees? Like how to bring them on, like serve safe training, just kind of everything all encompassing. It's kind of shifted away from just delivering boxes to a customer. Now you're like, all right, well, how do you help me with building on a menu, costing on a menu, my invoice processing? I mean, I remember back in the days of Chili's getting an invoice and you got to make sure everything's coded correctly. So
Yep.
from a price point. So
Yep.
now with the technology standpoint, it's taken away, or it's giving that ability to kind of duplicate it, with the use of technology to help them make sure they're profitable, know their true P&Ls. And the biggest thing is you can see they can see their P&Ls in the moment. So, I mean, there's a lot of things with technology. It's just right at your fingertips. So because of that, they're like, hey, we want to look at a broadline, it'll help us do that.
Yeah, it's nice. I think for the small guy that's trying to do something to try and figure out, okay, yeah, do I do it all on Excel or on
Yeah.
paper, which we know is outdated. I don't know how people still do that. I've seen it.
There's still a lot of it.
You go it
Yes,
and
yeah.
you think you're like, oh, I'm so far behind. And you're like, oh my God, people are literally still writing on a piece
Oh,
of
yeah.
paper, their ledgers, and
Yeah.
it's mind blowing.
Well, yeah.
So it's that one-stop shop from even a technology standpoint. I
Mm-hmm.
can get my food.
Yep.
They can help me with my inventory. They
Mm.
can help me with my recipes,
Yep.
building out everything. You've got everything under one roof, which
Yeah.
I think that's what they need nowadays.
Yeah.
There's just so many options that it can be, I don't know, overwhelming.
Yeah.
to
And also
handle.
too, like I said, utilizing those stores too. I mean, as you know, when you're in the restaurant industry, it's not the typical 9 to 5. You can't plan for that party of 15 that's going to walk in. So utilizing technology, get items from the store, either placing it online and going to pick it up or having
Mhm.
it delivered to you. I think that's a big piece now too. Even as, especially as like in these chains when they grow in other markets, like you guys are great. We use the store like crazy
Yeah.
because they can use that. And from a pricing standpoint, when they're under our umbrella, like with the chain side, so they have contracted pricing. They go in and buy a case of something, it's the same price. So they're not getting that sticker shock of, oh my God, because it's me
Mhm.
having something that comes up, I'm going to be overcharged. No, it's all under one umbrella. It's the same price.
Well, there's a lot of things if you're buying mainstream that you can get next day. And
Oh, yeah.
now you may not be able to pick it up till 10. Like it tells you what
Oh,
time,
yeah.
depending on the store size,
Yep.
etc.
hmm
But there is those, like you said, it's a restaurant. Stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You got, you're not perfect, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, I had 30 more covers than I expected, and they
Yep.
ate XYZ. But I can place an order, get it at the store, and at least I'm covered.
Yeah.
Till my truck comes.
Yeah.
So that's always nice. And then the van delivery that's been added, I know
Oh, it's
a lot of
huge.
people are taking advantage of that.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, it comes in the store,
Yeah.
and then there's basically a van driver
Yeah,
that
exactly.
loads it up and then takes it to your
Yep.
place. It's just a flat fee. You know what you're going to pay on top
hmm
of the cost. But for some, if you can't, there's 2 people, 3 people, you can't get out of the restaurant
No,
to go pick up
exactly.
your order. You may need it to be brought to you. So
Yeah.
van delivery is it's definitely game changer.
Yeah, like I said, it's just that, and that's the thing too with technology, with the stores, with the van. I mean, all this kind of stuff. Even to see when the driver's going to come, who your driver is, if
Delivering
anything
it.
short.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we always go. I mean, came back to it earlier. The worst feeling as a restaurant owner or somebody working there is the unknown. When a
Mhm.
truck shows up and then you're left, you're trying to prepare for the shift, and you're out of 4 cases of fries. What am I going to do? If you know ahead of time, and then behind the scenes, there's people are reaching out saying, "Hey, we'll get it taken care of." It's just that's a mutual partnership and understanding that, hey, we'll get you guys taken care of. And that's where the stores come in because it's an extension of what we deliver from the DC. We get it from the store, and ultimately the customer is taken care of.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone starting out in the food service industry today?
Um, Biggest thing is, I mean, it kind of sounds cliche, be a sponge because it's ever evolving and accept technology. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, to your point before, coming on, I'd go to certain restaurants and they'd give me the order on a napkin. You took the order on a napkin. You have people that place everything online. Great. And then you have to navigate your way to be a consultant to that customer because they're doing everything quote unquote on their own with regards to the ordering side. So I think from that side is accepting technology, looking at ways to be creative. Because to your point, when you go in and talk to a customer, like, well, you guys are all the same. You guys just deliver groceries. But from our side, being a family owned company and investing in employees and investing in the future, and the nice part is that kind of with our side too, without having having to kind of answer to shareholders, we can pivot a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a differentiator too. And like I said, just the industry is blooming. I mean, it is getting bigger, but like you said, you got to be a solution to them. Because like you said, they're frustrated that employees are coming in, they're leaving. So coming in with technology on top of food, it's kind of building a one-stop approach to help them.
Technology is,
It's amazing.
I think, I don't know why when I hear people go, oh, we still place the order over the phone. Why? Why
Yeah.
would you want that ambiguity of hoping that someone that's on the other end is going to get everything you
Mhm.
said versus, when you click,
Yeah.
it's on your screen. It tells
Yeah.
you it's there or it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Why would you not want that? Plus now with AI and that integration, I'm
Mhm.
sure to some degree there, you guys are doing something with AI. I'm sure on the back end.
Oh
On the
yeah,
technology
everybody is.
side.
Everybody is. I mean, that's what helps you understand the marketplace. I mean, as much as it sounds cliche with AI, you're like, oh, you try to go on human experience, but technology, there's so much data out there that the normal human being just cannot comprehend or
No.
understand, nor do they have the capacity. That's the luxury of AI to find, to your point, those trends and things of that nature. And you can see the frequency with which, how often a customer is ordering something. I mean, even though now if you go online, you look at Amazon, you go on Amazon, you look at something, the next time you go on, there's 15 different similar items for you. So, I mean, AI is involved in everywhere, but from our side, it's utilizing that technology. To your point, nobody has time. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Utilize technology to your advantage. And then when you work with like Gordon, it's our job to bring you ideas and solutions. And on the chain side, okay, you talk about LTOs. Hey, where are you guys looking to expand? So kind of to your point, looking ahead in that crystal ball theory or crystal ball to be like, hey, if you guys are going to grow in the next 3 to 6 months, let's start talking now. So it
Yeah.
takes some of that pressure off of you guys. You guys just do what you do really well. Let us do the hard work behind the scenes and move things around for you.
Yeah.
So
It's great.
yeah.
Let's jump into the weeds. So let's talk weird menu trends. What's most outrageous or unexpected menu item you've seen?
Ooh. Um, some of the like to be honest, with you, some of the veggie burgers. I'll be honest with you. Not trying to sound cliche. I grew up a meat and potato kind of guy. I just it's something different to me. It doesn't taste like it normally would. To be honest with you, it's just something completely different. I just never really got into that. Nor of like I said, it's just something I've not.
Have you had it as of late? Because
I have
it's
not.
come a long way.
I have not. So maybe shame on me.
Just do
I need to adapt. I need to open up my horizon a little
just
more.
because again, I go back to GFS. You guys have your
We have a
own,
ton.
a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give a shout out to the cauliflower wings. They
Yeah.
look like chicken wings, but they're made
Yeah.
of cauliflower. They're absolutely delicious, especially on mac and cheese. I was like, and it's
Yeah.
cauliflower. It's breaded
Yeah.
cauliflower, but looks like a wing.
Yeah.
It's like a chopped formed
Mm-hmm.
thing. You guys are coming out with some really cool stuff. Like
Yeah.
the base you just came out with, there's a non-beef beef base, a non-chicken
Yeah.
chicken base. The stuff's legit.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of that stuff, but just try it. Try a burger. Try, and you do have to be careful with who you go with. There
Yeah.
are some out there on the market. They're just
Yeah.
they're not good in my opinion.
No, sure.
You really
Yeah.
have to dig into it. And again, not that it's the everyday, but they've done a lot of work over the past 4 years. I think since COVID, everyone's kind of cleaned up their act,
Yeah.
and so now it's not a list of 100 things.
Well, I think that's a big thing too, is coming out of COVID. Like you said, there were so many. Let's just take French fries, for instance. There was 75 different kind of French fries. And now it's kind of skimmed down because of that. I mean, you don't need to have 15 different choices of one particular item. So I think to your point, the ones that are specialized in that particular line, things of that nature, they're honing in on their craft more. And in terms of their product, I mean, it's being cross-utilized a lot more than it was before. So I think, like you said, shame on me. I need to get back into that, try that. But I'm a creature of habit. I'll be honest. So just need to
Most
get
of
back
us
into
are.
that, try it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you're a Chicago guy. Deep dish or thin crust?
I'm thin crust.
Thin crust?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Oof. Luma and Eyes is a good one.
Can't go wrong.
I know.
Can't go wrong with a butter crust, man.
I know. Everybody loves deep dish. I mean, a lot of people in my family. I mean, I tried it. I'll have it from time to time, but I'm more of a thin crust kind of guy. Kind of spoiled too. I mean, a roast beef pizza, that's money. I'm not gonna lie. That's my go-to.
I don't think I've had a roast beef pizza.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's an old school little hole in the wall Joseph's by my house. Got the roast beef. You put the jardinere underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Are they putting any sauce or anything, or is it just
Oh, yeah.
jardinere and beef? Yeah. Is it still like
regular
tomatoes?
pizza, and
Yeah.
then there's a roast beef in there. You can have the jardinere underneath it.
Mm.
So yeah, that's something that we got some family parties, and that's been known to come out and been a fan favorite. So
that does sound good.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on breakfast for dinner?
I like it.
Who doesn't like
Brinner.
to switch it
It's
up?
Brinner, man. That's what we always do. We always go with the
Brinner.
breakfast dinner. So oh yeah, it's just easy. I think. I mean, breakfast always it's kind of. I always think of it kind of like a little like a comfort food. So I think it's good for dinner. You got some burger old kind of toasted bread with some hash browns and eggs and crispy bacon. I'll eat that at night. Same thing I would in the morning.
Yeah, I got kids. You got kids?
I have 4 kids.
Yeah, so it's like
You just feed the math. Whatever you got to do.
box pancake mix. All right, I can whip that up real quick. I can make pancakes or waffles.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to go with?
Speaking of pancake mix, I don't know if your kids like it, but we always get the GFS sweet buttermilk pancake mix.
Oh, I'm not.
Money.
Yeah?
My kids
I have not had
crush
that.
that stuff. Yeah.
In the
so-
stores, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, we get the big old box.
Yeah.
That was kind of some out of
You
COVID.
go through so
When you
much.
couldn't go out, we were like, oh, we got to make breakfast at home. We got the like the solo stove for the Blackstone for the house. So
Yeah.
you're making food on there, and you're like, hey, we're gonna make some pancakes. Can't go out for breakfast. Those are money. Still.
Is it easy just a water, oil,
Yeah.
egg, or
Yep.
yeah, super simple?
Oh yeah, super simple. Yeah, make it easy when you're feeding kids. It's like let's go.
Some of those you have to. I don't know. The whole point of me getting a box mix is I don't want to do a
It'll
lot
be
of work.
quick.
I want to be able to add it real quick, mix it
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
and move on.
I'm getting up. I have 20 minutes. Let's go.
All right, last one. Craziest food or kitchen gadget you've seen offered by GFS.
Oof.
You've been there 14 years.
I know.
Got to have seen some stuff.
I know. Probably the biggest gadget. I mean,
Gadget or food. It could be either one. Just the craziest food or gadget.
I mean, food. I was going back to many days. Or one time I had, this is back when I was in a route, was rabbit wings.
Rabbit wings?
Yeah, never tried it. It was kind of like that, getting into that game meat. Very interesting. It was different, but it was really good at the same time. And then from I guess being offered is kind of those robots, seeing those things. I think just the evolution of technology in the kitchens. I think that's something that's really big. I can't remember the name. We were at the home office a few months ago, but it was the robot with like the arms. So when you're in there, like
The Flippy?
I think it might be Flippy. Yeah.
It does burgers and
Yeah,
fries.
kind of like scoops around, but it'll scoop out like portions in the back. So almost like when you go to Chipotle, when you order a bowl,
Yeah.
like when they scoop everything out and they put it on there. Well, it's a robot with arms and it scoops it out, portions it, puts it on there, comes back, grabs the next one. So it's in essence taking away from the human element of being in the kitchen with a robot.
Yeah, there's one I just saw. I don't know if they'll be NRA or not. It's almost like that, but it's basically like a steam table or cold table.
Yeah.
And it
Might be
somehow
the same one. Is it like
dispenses underneath,
Oh, okay.
and the cooking mechanism's under it.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of like dumps everything, cooks it, and then it kind of brings it up, and then the person basically just puts it in a container or package and then hands it. I can't
Interesting.
remember the name of it. I was like, that's interesting. Because I think what they're trying to do is get rid of that the big. I think you can scare people off the robot, the physical robot,
you
just sitting
kinda
there
see, yeah.
being it, and they
Yeah.
can be a little clunky. So they're like, how do we just
Yeah.
take technology and just, all right, well, if there's just a cooking mechanism, almost like a
Yep.
conveyor belt underneath, and it's just kind of weight, it's obviously got all the weights, and you
Yeah.
plug in what you want, and it's just kind of dumping all that stuff in a little saute pan.
Yeah.
Because I've also seen like the wok cooker.
I've seen those. yeah.
Those are pretty cool. And
Yeah.
the arm's sitting there just doing it and dumps it out. And you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, I mean,
It's still it's just crazy. Like I said, it's just a different feel to see kind of technology coming into the industry. I think coming out of COVID, it kind of just exponentially heightened the need for that because of it. Like I said, with the labor challenges. So I mean, it's pretty surreal. But I think that's something that I know for my kids and future generations, it's just going to be a part of our world.
yeah,
It just
they're
is.
not going to know anything other than.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, my kids already don't know what life is without a phone, which
Oh, yeah.
blows my mind, being 7 and 5.
Yeah. They don't even know what a phone on a wall looked like. And
No.
kind of talking about it like, yeah, didn't have it in your pocket. I'm like, no, they're
Yeah, I love that. I love the
Have it in your
videos on
phone.
the internet, and they'll say, "All right, we're going to say words," and they'll say telephone call. Our generation, it's this,
Oh, yeah.
and they'll put their hand up to their face, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
well, I wish that was with it, or they'll put a rotary phone out for them,
Oh, yeah.
and they'll say, and they're like, "How do you work this thing?"
Yeah.
This is. I don't know. They think it's like future technology.
Mhm.
It's ancient, but
Well, even like commercials, like for kids to have patience nowadays, it's gone. Like guys, we grew up here on TV. You watch what you watch, and you had to wait through a commercial. Now it's like I can't wait.
if a commercial comes on TV, the same thing. They're just like,
Oh, they're trying to get out of it.
Dad, skip it.
They're trying to move to a different channel. I'm like, it's not going to get rid of the commercial. You got to deal with it.
Yeah. Man, it was a blast chatting today. Where do people go if they want to learn more about GFS, learn more about what you do? Go ahead and drop socials and all that.
Yeah. If you go to gfs.com and you can put on there, you can kind of see a little bit of background. You can go into become a customer or find out about like multi-unit as well. So you can put your information in there and kind of filter out into our world. So there's videos on there, there's tutorials, kind of talks about more in depth of what I just spoke about. So, but the website is kind of like the main go-to. LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. So another opportunity to try to connect and things of that nature. So
great.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah.
man.
So I'll throw all the info down in the show notes when we get done. And again, appreciate the travel
Yeah.
issue and making it in
All good,
today.
man. This was fun. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's fun to catch
Well, until next time, we'll catch you on the sunny side.